Leave me alone. The last year has seen our marriage come to the brink of separation. Loss of intimacy, communication, and some love. My wife has been running into a mutual male friend at the gym a couple times a week for the past several months, and they even take fitness classes together. She has mentioned this casually, but I never made anything out of it. Then one day out of the blue she tells me they are going to begin working out together, because I don't work out with her. She is the type to get very jealous and confrontational if I even speak to another woman casually, but she found it okay to exchange numbers with him via text so they can set up training sessions. I believe in the whole if you love them, let them go philosophy, so I said go ahead, but to just be careful because of the state of our relationship and her vulnerability. I also brought up the point that she would be furious if the shoe were on the other foot, and that maybe she needs to be more trusting of me in return. I'm pretty sure she confided in one of her friends for advice, and she came to me to tell me that she decided against it because she wouldn't want me to do the same thing. But the same day, she got very upset and said we need to talk and that she can't go into the new year continuing the way we are. So, talk we did. We had some very frank and open conversations and resolved a lot of issues and resentments. We've seen a complete 180 turnaround in our marriage, and it feels like another honeymoon period. Last night, however, she comes home from the gym and mentioned running into this guy again and told me about the conversation they had and how he complimented her looks. I'm glad she feels she can tell me that, and I'm happy for her when somebody compliments her, but my gut still doesn't sit right on this whole situation. They aren't friends on Facebook, but she is friends with all of our other mutual friends. I don't think she has cheated on me, but I sense some lingering attraction here and her still being pulled down that slippery slope. What happens when this new honeymoon period is over and we experience the inevitable bumps? Is this workout thing going to rear its head again because she does have my permission after all? I also wonder what impact this whole situation had on her wanting to talk and fix our relationship. Do I need to be concerned? I hate to bring it up with her, because we have moved on from so much of the negativity of the past, and I'd hate to ruin our momentum if my concerns are unfounded. What do you all think? Comment. She needs to pick another gym. Every time she sees him, the feelings will come back. Even if she doesn't see him, the gym will remind her of him. Every time she uses the same machine as before, she'll remember him. Every time she's in a class they took together, she'll remember him. Kick out a new gym and work out with her. She'll probably want to keep the old gym because it has the nice memories of him. Kick out a much nicer gym so that she's not upset about losing the other gym. Don't worry about the increased cost, as the fallout of an affair is quite costly. But in the bigger picture, you now know about this moral failing in her. It's like someone who robs banks when they are poor. Some people will never rob a bank no matter the circumstances, but others will. This is a lifelong issue and you will always have to be aware. Either make it a priority so that she feels loved and special, or else deal with the consequences. Furthermore, some people are addicted to the new relationship. They need the intense feelings that new love brings. It may be difficult for them to be monogamous long-term since those feelings fade. These kinds of people may not be suited to marriage since it's difficult and unlikely to be in that state for decades. What's your history together? Age? How long have you known her and been married? Kids? OP responds. We've been together for 20 years since high school, married the last 5, one beautiful child. The compliments have been flowing nicely since our reconciliation. Mind-blowing X. More in the past 2 weeks than in the previous 3 months combined. She does genuinely seem a lot happier, and so am I. We have gone hiking together and done a yoga class as well. So, I'm making the effort, but she doesn't seem interested in doing either again. Has turned down encore requests. Hooked on that class. I personally am turned off by outwards acts of jealousy and insecurity. She used to do it to me all the time, so I have concerns about showing up with her and blocking. Don't want to be what I despise. Maybe there comes a point when my personal threshold is crossed though. Great idea on the periodic checkup talks. We will definitely be doing this, and this would be a good time to bring up my concerns if they keep growing. I also had to look up the lingo and, in the process, learned a lot regarding EAs and PAs and crap tests and the like. The last thing I want to do is sit idly by while an EA blossoms. Since we have been taking the right steps in our relationship and communicating much more openly lately, I do still plan on talking with her about this whole situation. Just want to get into her head a bit more on what she was feeling and why things went down like they did. One burning thought is that she first told me of this training arrangement during foreplay. Totally out of the blue. I was literally on my way down. I find the timing a bit odd. I've tried off and on through the years, but she never stuck with it. You can only try so many times and alter your routine in the process before you tell her. You got to find out for yourself how bad you want to get in better shape and then do it for yourself. I did recognize the need to spend more time with her, and since I love to hike and trail run, I invited her into my world. She got the best workout she probably ever had in terms of difficulty. The yoga class I invited her to be was admittedly a bit weak due to the instructor that day, but I told her not to let that impact her decision to try it again. But she doesn't want to do either with me again. I just get excuses because she can't go. She has been fascinated by CrossFit for a long time, but a bit intimidated. After all this went down, I found out about an all-female gym in town that is basically CrossFit for women. I told her to check it out, and she did. Said it was way too expensive. So, I offered to make up any amount she wasn't comfortable paying. 6-month contract. Thought this was right up her alley and very close to work, but she still declined. My take from all this is that basically she was craving some time and attention, not an actual workout. Even though I'm trying my best to fill that void, she keeps returning to the environment that was filling that void when I wasn't. An update. About a month ago, on class night, I casually mentioned that I had nothing else to do and would like to try the class with her. My wife immediately began trying to talk me out of it, telling me I wouldn't like it because of all the dancing involved, etc., etc. She never looked at me or stopped what she was doing while she was telling me this. I went upstairs and a few minutes later she comes up and asks me if I was still planning on going. I told her no, that it was just a wild idea that came to me. I was going to hit the weights at another facility. Instead, I actually went to the gym where her class was and hung out for a while waiting for her class to start. Once it did, I popped my head in, and guess who was jamming together in the back? Yep, once she saw me, she laid it on thick. OMG hey. All smiles, etc. They then both come out into the hallway and IMO acting as phony as can be. Just a little too smiley and nice and high-pitched, telling me to come in and join them. I just walked away. I accomplished what I set out to do, which was let them know I have eyes on the situation. When my wife got home later, she was PO throwing clothes on the floor, slamming doors, and unacceptable to me taking her anger out on our daughter who ended up running to her room crying. Quite a departure from Mrs. Sunshine that I just experienced an hour earlier, isn't it? To me, her behavior reeked of guilt. We had a talk that night, of course, full of denials on her part. Apparently, the concept of an EA was foreign to her, so I filled her in, but she still denied. Regardless, I set the boundary, expectation that she could keep going to that class whenever she wanted, just not as my wife. She agreed to it. I thought this would be the end of it, but the following week on class night, she said she was going to the gym to work out. I thought there was no way she would be stupid enough to go to the same gym. There are multiple facilities in our city and some closer to our house, but she let it slip that she was indeed going back to the same gym that the class is held, which would have certainly led to them crossing paths. I called her on it immediately, and she began apologizing profusely that it was an accident. She didn't realize or make the connection, etc. Right. That to me screamed she was still in a fog and crushing on this guy hard. About a week later she mentioned crossing paths with him and told me they simply waved and went about their business. I thanked her for telling me, but also said that if everything she said was true about there being absolutely nothing to that relationship, why the avoidance? I told her they acted guilty. The next morning, I felt I had to do something to end this once and for all. I pulled up his FB page. We are friends on FB, so therefore I can see his feed, and showed her just from the last 2 months his numerous outings and dinners with other women under the guise of friendship, some of whom were married. One of the married women actually made the guy something by hand. How her hubby let that happen I don't know. Bluntly, I told my wife that she wasn't $hit to him, she was not special, and that she was simply another piece of a $sign he was working. It's almost like I could see the fog lifting from her. She seemed especially disheartened about the lady who made him something. In the weeks since, I feel that we've finally put an end to that chapter. I don't think in my heart of hearts that anything happened between them, but I certainly stopped a burgeoning E. I thank you all for showing me that just friends is anything but in a married relationship, and for showing me the tools to put a stop to it and set boundaries. I'm confident had this been allowed to continue, I would have been on here this summer talking about my wife and her pa. I've told her as much. The fact that she was still seeking his attention and validation in the midst of our supposed reconciliation shows just how strong that fog can be for a person. There were some other things we talked about and brought into the open. Some things from the past, some financial matters she hid from me. I was able to access all her accounts unbeknownst to her. She had a friend request and message from Mom, but she deleted both. I got some trickle truth, changing stories, and lies of omission regarding some things. And that is something I'm going to have on the back of my mind going forward. I also wonder what's going to happen when a real catch crosses her path one day. All I can do in the meantime is be the best man, husband, and father I can possibly be. If it turns out that isn't enough, then so be it, and I have no problem walking. But I'll deal with it if we get there. Let's be blunt here. Man after man has been taken to the cleaners during nasty divorce proceedings. Women, who like the opus, had no concern about money going into or during the marriage, which changes to a desire to get every last penny she can during a divorce. The entire divorce system is stacked against the man, and I don't see how that is even up for debate. It's natural then, for some men to want to protect themselves going in. As our relationship continued to deteriorate, my suspicions grew stronger. I had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. My wife had been acting distant, uninterested, and constantly on her phone. It was like she was always trying to avoid me. Then one day, I found out the truth. She had been cheating on me with her co-worker for months. It was like a punch to the gut. How could she do this to me? I thought we had something special, something that was worth fighting for. But no, she didn't see it that way. She wanted out, and she had found someone else to fill the void. I was heartbroken and devastated. The thought of losing her was unbearable, but the thought of her being with someone else was even worse. The divorce was bitter and ugly. I couldn't believe the things she was saying about me, how she was twisting the truth to make herself look like the victim. It was like she had no remorse for what she had done to me. I felt betrayed, angry, and hurt. The thought of starting over, of being alone, was terrifying. But I knew that I couldn't stay in a marriage where I wasn't respected or loved. As we went through the legal process, I knew that I needed to focus on my own healing. I took up new hobbies, made new friends, and started therapy. It was a long and painful journey, but I eventually found my way back to happiness. Looking back, I can see now that the signs were there all along. I should have listened to my gut, should have confronted her sooner. But at the end of the day, I know that I did everything I could to save our marriage. In the end, it wasn't enough. But I know that I am better off without her, and that someday I will find someone who loves and respects me for who I am. It's been 3 months since my divorce, and I have to say, life has been a roller coaster of emotions. At first, I was devastated and felt like my entire world had fallen apart. But as time went on, I realized that being single has its perks. I've been able to focus on myself and do things that I never had the chance to do when I was married. I've picked up new hobbies, met new people, and even traveled a bit. It's been liberating to not have to answer to anyone else's needs or wants. Of course, there are times when I feel lonely and miss the companionship that comes with being in a relationship. But I'm taking this time to really figure out who I am and what I want out of life. And who knows, maybe I'll find someone who is a better fit for me in the future. One of the things that has really helped me move on is finding new interests. I've always been a bit of a homebody, but now I'm trying out new activities like rock climbing and painting. It's been a great way to meet new people and challenge myself in ways I never thought possible. Overall, life after divorce has been tough, but it's also been a journey of self-discovery. I'm excited to see what the future holds and to continue to grow as an individual. And who knows, maybe I'll even find love again someday. But for now, I'm happy being single and enjoying all that life has to offer. My comment: it takes time and someday you might find someone you like. Story 2. I realize this could all just be in my head and I'm simply being jealous, but I feel like it's something I need to bring up. Before I start, let me say that my wife and I have a pretty good marriage. We have our arguments and petty issues just like any other, but nothing earth-shattering. My wife started a new job about 4 months ago. Her and a guy she works with were in the same group of new hires together and are now the only two from that group that are still working there. The problem I'm having is that she talks about this guy a lot. I recently mentioned taking an interest in blacksmithing, and she responded with, "Oh, Steve used to be a blacksmith." I applied for a job at a local foundry and I get, "Oh, Steve used to work there." Every day I hear this guy's mentioned at least once or twice, and I know for a fact that they often share dirty jokes and make dirty jokes with each other all the time. Now this may not seem like much, but one day she came home from work and said that Steve bought her lunch that day. I thought nothing of it at the time and said cool, and she got upset with me. She was upset that I didn't question it or act jealous. Is this normal? Am I just being paranoid, or should I actually be concerned? I wanted to point this one particular instance out really quick. The other day when I picked her up from work, she told me this Steve guy told her, "You're my favorite peanut." Her response: "Wow, again, maybe I'm just being paranoid, but who talks like that with a co-worker? Our physical life is almost non-existent, maybe once or twice a month. But this is an issue that's been ongoing for a couple of years now, so I don't think it has anything to do with this." Her response to the lunch question was, "You know, most guys would be upset that some dude bought their wife lunch. It was a damn roast beef sandwich, not like he took her to a fancy restaurant." I hesitated to bring it up online, but there was one specific instance that caught my attention. She works in a food production plant and operates a large grinder that grinds raw chicken. One day she said she nearly got sprayed with the white goo that raw chicken often has on it, and Steve commented with a joke about her nearly getting X on. Maybe just a harmless joke, but it still stuck out in my mind. She's told me before that it bothers her that I don't get jealous. I would think most women would like that quality in a man. She has health issues that affect her desire for sex. She's told me before that she wants bonding, but is either too tired, sick, or in too much pain to be in the mood. The little bonding we do have doesn't last long either. A little foreplay and then she wants to get right to the main event. She usually goes straight to sleep afterwards. To be honest, I'm not sure. I know she's definitely been acting weird the last couple of weeks, but I've not seen any obvious signs outside of the few things I've mentioned that give me any reason to believe they're no more than work friends. I'm not a very emotional or romantic person, and this is the first job she's had in almost 3 years, and she really doesn't have a social life outside of work, so maybe this is just her way of socializing. I just know this Steve guy's name comes up more than anyone else's when she talks about work, so maybe I'm just protecting my own inadequacies on the whole thing. He is single. He even told her he was supposed to go on a date one night with someone, but she stood him up. I'm ashamed to admit it, I've looked at her Facebook messages and have found nothing really but work-related conversations between them. She shared a few work-related memes with him, but that's about it. I know I've mentioned this in a previous response, but he has basically told my wife that he's a little intimidated by me because of my size. Again, don't know if that's relevant, but maybe it'll keep him from trying to put the moves on her. Seems her boss told her I lost my job there because I didn't come in at a certain time. Now she's just staring at her phone instead of taking to me. I want to add that as of Wednesday night she's barely spoken to me at all since our argument. I tried to have a discussion with her this morning before she left for work and must have said something that upset her because she glared at me and said, "You are on a very fast track to being single." Trying to talk to her about changes in her behavior only seems to be making her defensive and angry. No, the argument on Wednesday was about how I lost my job. I found out yesterday that I was just laid off because they were overstaffed. When I told her that either she was BS me or her boss was BS her about it, she said, "Yeah, cause I'm a liar." Duck you. The discussion this morning was about how we will get the kids to daycare if I get a second shift job. My vehicle doesn't run very well and she doesn't want the kids riding in it. She started there first. She is a full-time employee and I came on 3 months later as a temp. I have no idea how many others were let go. Yes, her and Steve work in the same room together every day. She is 36 and he is 50 or 51. So, we just had a little chat. Apparently, I was way off base as to why she's been acting the way she has. All of these behavioral changes are because her work is putting so much pressure on her she's close to a nervous breakdown. Also explains why she comes home so exhausted every night she can barely function. Okay, I thought things were getting better between us over the weekend, though she still doesn't really reciprocate any affection I show to her. But I hugged her this morning when she was leaving for work, and she was crying. When I asked her what was wrong, she just shook her head and rushed out the door. Why the hell would me hugging her goodbye make her cry? I'm going to try to talk to her tonight. Update. It's been 3 years since that day when I first started to feel suspicious of my wife's relationship with her coworker, Steve. As I look back on those early days, I realized that my jealousy was fueled by my own insecurities and fear of losing her. But as it turned out, my fears were not unfounded. A few months after I first started to notice something was off, my wife finally confessed to me that she had been having an affair with Steve. I was devastated, angry, and hurt all at once. How could she do this to me? I thought we had a good marriage. Over the next few weeks, we had some of the most intense and painful conversations of our lives. She told me that she had been feeling neglected and unfulfilled in our marriage, and that Steve had given her the attention and affection she had been craving. I was crushed to hear this, but I couldn't deny that I had been neglecting her emotionally. Despite the hurt and betrayal, I loved my wife and wanted to work through our issues. We started seeing a therapist, and gradually we started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I doubted whether we would ever truly be able to move past what had happened. But over time, we started to heal. We talked about what had gone wrong in our marriage, and we worked on ways to communicate better and meet each other's needs. We also set some boundaries around my wife's relationship with Steve, and she agreed to end the affair. It wasn't a quick or easy process, but eventually, we found our way back to each other. Today, our marriage is stronger than ever. We still have our challenges, but we've learned to be more open and honest with each other, and we make an effort to show each other love and affection every day. Looking back on those dark days, I realized that our reconciliation was only possible because we were both willing to be vulnerable and honest with each other. It took a lot of hard work and patience, but in the end, it was worth it. I'm grateful to have my wife back in my life, and I know that together, we can face whatever challenges come our way. My comments: there's bound to be a reconciliation ending to some of these. As long as you know what you are getting yourself into, then go ahead and take her back. You accepted a cake eater. Story 3. I am a woman who has just completed 31 years of marriage and have 4 beautiful grown-up kids ranging from 17 through to 27 years. I have a 12-year difference with my husband, he is being the older one. I have had a very rocky marriage and in hindsight, feel that I married the wrong person for me. We have little in common and over the years tried to keep it together for the family. I tried to end it a few times, but the kids cried and freaked out, including my husband, who did not want a breakup. To keep things simple, I have felt no connection or bond with my husband. I feel distant, and whilst I care for him as the father of my children and having a life together, I feel detached and honestly cannot find any passion of longing for intimacy with him. We are starting counseling together because I feel unable to get through to him. He seems hell-bent on winning a discussion or argument at all costs. I am emotionally exhausted. What I would like to know is it too late for separation? I am scared of losing respect from my children who will blame me, and then what of our finances? Home etc. My kids are living at home trying to save etc. God, why does life have to get so hard? I seem to be in this marriage because the alternative is difficult and I would cause such hurt and upheaval upon my family. I am tired of kidding myself. I know solutions are not easy, but at the end of the day I feel I deserve some happiness. But at what cost? So confused. Please understand that in 30 years of marriage a lot has happened, good and bad. I am firstly not unappreciative of my husband's positive contribution in bringing up wonderful morally sound children. He has been a responsible father. He had laxed in spending any time with them growing up and doing fatherly things. For this, I have taken this together time with my kids. Like going to sports carnivals, taking them to movies, etc. I have felt sorry for my children growing up without bonding time, but what is done is done. They seem okay. He has mostly been responsible for having good financial stability. We are lucky. What I'm trying to say is that from very early in the marriage we fought a lot. He was very dominating and wanted to win an argument or situation at all costs. He was judgmental and everything had to be done according to his ideology. I was young, not very experienced, and put my feelings aside and eventually got sick of arguing over petty nonsense. Cannot have the small dog in the house for longer than 1 hour because it's a dog and they belong outside. We shall eat at 6 p.m. because I'm hungry and well, I'm sure everyone else wouldn't mind, except you. Stop being difficult. The list goes on. This has led over the years to us not bonding as a couple, me losing all respect for him and being miserable. I tried so hard to keep the peace. I was and still am a good person who as a mother and wife completely fulfill all my duties and obligations to do the best for our family. I have worked and am also for the last 6 years of full-time care for my mother of 86 years who has dementia. She lives with us and I am solely responsible for her and our family of 8. Basically over the last 4 years my husband has attempted and has improved his behavior a fair bit. He watches his health and is not overweight. He asks me if I need help, is kind and is trying. He had realized that we are and have been at breaking point, as I have said to him, and he wants to fix the marriage. I don't know though if I want this as well. I feel drained and feel a great disconnect that I wonder if I am able after so many years of hurt to rekindle love and passion with him. I feel that 30 years of marriage is enough and I am quite happy to go it alone, so to speak. The one thing that stops me walking out are my children. They would blame me for initiating this and I would be seen as the mum who broke her family apart. As mentioned, all of us live together in one house. To destroy the security of our home is at the moment too high a price. I am trying to be realistic and look at things from all angles. But, hell, I hate my life and predicament at the moment. I just want out and need to be the happy person I once was. I am miserable, lost interest in a lot of things that long ago made me happy. Pretending to be happy is a production I now play to keep my family secure and happy. When they see me miserable, they all become sad for me and the situation. My husband often will say, "Your moods affect your family around you. Is this what you want?" I'm between a rock and a hard place. It's hard when you want to make things better, but deep down you can't keep up the attempt and you slide back down to depression and a sense of kidding yourself. I am hoping that counseling will help. I am a strong person and will keep trying to work things out if need be. I am trying also to be realistic and am relying on the counselor to tell it like it is. Maybe that will trigger something in me to enable us to decide what we really want out of all this. It is a long and confusing road where you have to be fair and put your hand up, so to speak, and own your role in all this. I feel the need to comment of my husband's perspective on all this. My husband agrees that we have had some bad fights in the past. He agrees that for most part he was a bastard, or putting it nicely, not enough understanding and low on manners. He knows he made mistakes. We have spoken about things till the roosters started crowing. He says we need to draw a line and put all the crap behind us and move on and try, both of us, to be good to one another and try to have a positive interaction, and if we need to discuss issues, to do so and get them resolved. All these things are common sense and sound wonderful. My problem is that I am exhausted and after so much crap and emotional hurt, I don't know if I want to be with him anymore. I feel no love for him or respect. I don't enjoy his company or seek it out anymore. Whilst I don't hate him, I have lost interest in him as a husband and wonder if it is possible to develop feelings that should bond a husband and wife. Am I unworthy of having a happy life? Do I sacrifice my needs to keep my children happy? And for how long? What if it cost me my health and emotional well-being? Are you saying that just because I got married young and was not experienced in life and men, that this is the price I now should pay? Remember, I am still married. I have stuck it out for 31 years. And I am still devoted to my children's well-being. Ages from 17 through to 27 years, they are not babes anymore. Surely, marriage is indeed what you make of it. But you have to be realistic and understand that sometimes two people are not compatible. No matter how hard the journey, I'm still hanging in there. I want to get things to improve. I am trying, but how do you deal with a husband who nods and shows that he is listening, but really just goes through a head in the sand moment and lacks the empathy gene? Loves to give advice about you but mention his flaws, and it's time for judge and jury show. Also, I do value marriage. I have been and am married for over 30 years. Take a walk in my shoes, please. Remember, I am not only dealing with my marriage problems, but I am also dealing with my 86-year-old mother with dementia, looking after her 24/7, taking her and picking her up from daycare 5 days a week for a few hours so then I can run around and do my chores before picking her up and planning dinner for 8 people, doing and cleaning chores for 8 people and trying to find the time to stay happy. My comment: you have to love and respect yourself to begin to understand feeling that for your husband. To me, it sounds like he is in a place to want to wall off the past hurt and bad feelings. Avoidance will not heal your resentment that has built between, and that you recognize this as strength in itself because you are already able to see what you need to do sooner. Is how you forgive that resentment is you challenge, and the right counselor may help guide you. Your husband cannot dictate a path for you any more than you can for him. More story after I finish making some tea.